All right, I see that more folks have joined us today, and it is 5 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. To ensure that this meeting is accessible to everyone, we're going to go ahead and be reading instructions on choosing the correct language channel on Zoom. So if you're a monolingual English speaker, we ask that you please select the world-like interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen, then select English. If you are using Zoom via a telephone or tablet, please select the three dots to see more options, followed by interpretation and then English. At this time, I'm going to pass the mic over to Lingüística to read those instructions in Spanish.
Thank you very much, Vanessa. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a su reunión. Nada más queremos recordarles que tenemos ya la interpretación al español disponible para ustedes. Si ingresaron utilizando una computadora, van a ver el icono de un mundo en la parte de abajo de su menú de Zoom. Por favor, seleccionen ese icono, seleccionen español y también les invitamos a silenciar el audio original para que solo escuchen una voz a la vez. Si ustedes ingresaron con un teléfono móvil o una tableta, sus opciones son un poquito diferentes. Van a necesitar tocar su pantalla, buscar los tres puntitos que están ya sea en la parte de arriba o abajo de su dispositivo. Seleccione donde dice interpretación de idioma. Después seleccione español. Nuevamente, silenciar el audio original. Y por último, el botón que diga done, listo o finalizado para que ya nos puedan escuchar en español. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tania, for reviewing those instructions for us. Now that we're all in the correct channel, we're going to go ahead and continue. If at any point you have issues with selecting the correct channel, please let us know by either raising your hand, or you can also post in the chat to let us know. All right, good evening, everyone. Once again, Happy New Year. And welcome to our January Shafter Community Steering Committee meeting, the first one of 2024. I hope folks are able to rest during the holidays and are enjoying a positive start to the year so far. It's great to see everyone here once again. My name is Vanessa Gomez, and I am joined by my wonderful colleague, Dr. Diana McDonald tonight. And we are joined today by Stephanie Ng and Rocio Calderon from the Air Districts. Before we kick off today's meeting, there are some housekeeping items that we'd like to review with you all. We do recognize that many of you who have attended meetings in the past are well aware of these items, but we feel that it's always important to refresh ourselves of what they are. So before we get started, we do ask that you please mute yourself and make sure your full name and organization are showing as your screen name. To change your screen name, click on the top right side of your picture or video. CSC members can use the naming convention CSC -first name, last name. And if you're a resident, you can use the convention R -first name, last name. For all other participants, please use first name, last name, -affiliation. If you're a member of the Air District or California Air Resources Board, you can use AD or CARB as your affiliation. If you're a member of the general public, please use P. And for all other organizations, you can write your organization name out. And we ask that you please note that the meeting host may update your screen name during the meeting as needed. We want to make sure that we know who's here. So we may ask you to, or we may change your name to make that clear for everyone. As you know, my colleague Diana and I are available to help with technical support at any time and to keep track of the action items throughout the meeting. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions, either via the chat or by raising your hand if you have them. We do not have a co-host for tonight, but we continue to encourage anyone who is interested and would like to volunteer as co-host for a CSC meeting to please let us know so we can support you and help make that happen. As a reminder to everyone, our co-hosts decide the level of participation and facilitation that they have during the meeting, and our team, as well as the Air District, will work closely with you to ensure that you feel prepared during the meeting. If either of you have any recommendations on how to best encourage CSC members to become co-hosts, please don't hesitate to send them our way. And as always, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to be here tonight. We value your ongoing commitment and your engagement in this process. And it is because of you that your community will be able to develop and implement new strategies to monitor air quality, as well as help reduce health impacts in Shafter. To ensure community input and participation during today's virtual meeting, we do ask that you please adhere to the commitments for engagement that you see in front of you on this slide. Before we continue, does anyone have any questions about any of these? I'm not seeing any raised hands or comments in the chat, so I will continue. But as always, if you have any questions, concerns about any of them, please do let us know. And as a reminder, before we launch into our first item on the agenda, please do not forget that the agenda topics for today's meeting are a direct representation of the topics requested by CSC members. In other words, these are topics that the CSC has asked to have a discussion about either in the last CSC meeting or during the most recent agenda setting meeting. And to provide a brief summary of what to expect for tonight, today's agenda topics are designed to provide updates on action items from last month's meeting, share a review of the dial-a-ride program, as well as updates on air monitoring and SERP implementation progress, and provide standing updates. Also, as you can see, we do have a public comment item at the end of each meeting, but we encourage you to ask questions at any point after each agenda item if you have them, so that you don't have to wait until the very end to ask your questions or provide your comments, concerns, all of that. At this time, I'd like to pass it on to Stephanie for welcoming remarks.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. My name is Stephanie Ng, and I'm a program manager at the Valley Air District. I'm super excited to be with you all tonight. And like Vanessa shared, I hope you all had some great time to spend with your family and loved ones over the holiday. And we're just so excited to jump back into things as we're starting 2024. Like Vanessa, updates tonight that are based on requests from previous meetings and our agenda setting meeting. And so we're looking forward to going through those with you all tonight. Just for transparency, I do just want to share that from the Air District, we do have a handful of staff here to support tonight's meeting. And so I'll just run through these folks just really briefly. We have Rocio, who is your Shafter liaison with the district. And we also have Maricela and Michelle with our outreach and communications team, as well as Jamie Holt. Tonight, we are planning on having a air monitoring update. So you'll see Tanner and Robert from our air monitoring team, as well as Brian Dominowski, who's there to answer any questions that you all might have related to our grant programs. And with that, I'm really looking forward to tonight's meeting.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for those opening remarks. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, which is a review of the action items tracker. Part of our work together is to increase transparency and accountability, which is why we dedicate this time near the beginning of each meeting to review the action items tracker with the committee. We appreciate the Air District's efforts to continually update the tracker to ensure your voices are heard and that you're able to monitor progress toward implementing your suggestions. As a reminder to everyone, at the end of each meeting, we share action items that we've written down with the CSC and encourage members to either add action items that we should have tracked and might have missed, or to make changes to the existing ones in case we misinterpreted any of the items. As Rocio provides updates, please feel free to ask for clarification. Our team will be sure to take note of any follow-up questions that are asked, and if they can't be answered tonight, we'll make sure to return to your questions at a future meeting. Rocio, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. This is Rocio. Happy New Year's. I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can get started with the action items. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So starting off with the in-progress action item. In the last CSC meeting, we had a CSC member show interest in moving additional funds to the low dust nut harvester program as this measure has been completed already. And so this conversation was continued during the November agenda setting meeting, and the CSC did decide to circle back to this conversation and bring it to a future CSC meeting to discuss. However, today we will be hearing an update from the low dust nut harvester measure during the air monitoring update. Moving on to the completed action items. So in the last CSC meeting, we did have a few folks request to receive hard copies of the meeting materials. So we went ahead and sent those out to them. Moving on to the next action item for the Air District to share the locations of the EV chargers that are installed in Shafter. And so there's a total of 6 projects that have been completed. There is 3 level 2 chargers at the City of Shafter Public Works Corporation and Technical Services site. And there's also another 3 level 2 chargers at the Richland Chevrolet. And so these next 2 action items were actually for the Air District to send an email to the CSC with updates. And so we went ahead and did that on December 14th, where we sent updates from the Air District and partner agencies, including CARB. And moving on to the ongoing action items. So for the Air District to bring the CSC updates on meetings with the City of Shafter. And so the district did meet with the City of Shafter in December, and we discussed funding opportunities that they can take advantage of that are in our SERP. And so we'll make sure to share with the CSC any updates that come from those, and we'll continue working with the City of Shafter and other government agencies to continue moving forward with the SERP measures. Moving on to the next action item for the Air District to bring updates to the CSC as urban greening planting is happening. And as you folks might remember, in the last CSC meeting, we did have a discussion for urban greening and vegetative barriers. And we're happy to share that those contracts for the projects have been offered. And so hopefully we'll be seeing some trees to come soon in the Shafter community. And for the last action item, it was for the Air District to continue doing outreach for the low dust nut harvester and the vegetative barrier program. And so we'll make sure to continue bringing those updates to the CSC as we get information on those. And that's all for the action items. I'm happy to take any questions if there's any. Don't see any raised hands.
Don't see anything in the chat.
I'll pass it back to you, Diana. Oh, I see Linda's hand up. Go ahead.
I just had a question. You said that there was 6 chargers level 2, but you said there's 3 at Richland and 2 at the city yard, Public Works yard. Where's the other one?
There's 3 at both of those sites.
Oh, 3. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
I can go back there.
No, it's okay. I just was trying. And how do we advertise those? Or is that something that just populates on an electric car?
Steph, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, thanks for Sue, and thanks Linda for your question. I'm not sure if the city has like a list of chargers that are available, but we can certainly follow up with their team and then our grant team to see what kind of advertising happens around those chargers.
I can chime in too. We're actually working on a piece, an outreach piece just for EV owners that will point you to a variety of different apps. Most EV owners there's a whole bunch of apps online that basically tell you where all the chargers are in your whatever area you're looking in. So we're just looking at a piece that will, like the city, whoever could give out to anyone that was interested in finding out where chargers are. For if you drive an EV, those smartphone applications are you have to have them if you're out in the world.
Okay, thank you. I haven't seen them personally out, so I just wanted to make sure that people were able to access them. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Bianca, I see that you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Are those charging stations also open for buses? The electric buses?
Hey, Bianca, this is Stephanie. Those chargers are for passenger vehicles, so kind of the cars that you and I drive. They're not, the infrastructure isn't meant for something like a bus. Be a separate piece of charging infrastructure. But maybe to this point, these are kind of per this program, these are publicly accessible chargers. So if folks do, have an EV that they want to charge, these are some additional sites in the community. Jamie mentioning that there are apps that you can use to find other chargers in the Shafter community. I think thumbs up from Linda. That if there are no other questions related to the action items, happy to pass back to Vanessa.
Great, thank you so much, Stephanie. Next up on the agenda, we'd like to introduce you to and review an exciting transportation service available in Shafter, which is the Dial-A-Ride program. The goal of this agenda item is to make the CSC aware that this service is available to you all and to demonstrate how it operates. This program offers low-cost, on-demand transportation within the city to Shafter residents and visitors on a first-come, first-served basis. Here to talk more about the program and answer your questions is Rocio Mosqueda with the City of Shafter. Before we continue with the presentation, are there any questions or comments that folks would like to share?
Vanessa, there's a question from Bianca, I think, about the charging stations. That's, I think, a real quick one that maybe we could get into. If they're in a close area or all of them are open to the public. And I think, Stephanie, you said they are all open to the public. And Bianca, I'm not sure what you mean in a close area.
If it's fenced up and
closed
closed by
area.
a closed area, sorry.
No, I misread what you wrote.
This is Stephanie. While I'm not sure, I do believe one of the areas might have kind of an enclosure around it. As part of this program, the chargers are meant to be accessed by the public. So they're not, there's time through the day that folks should just be able to use those chargers.
Did that answer your question, Bianca, or do you have a follow-up question?
In after hours, do they have to call a number so they could get any area open for charging?
The chargers at those specific sites. Generally, I can say that they're as part of the program. In order to get the funding, there needs to be public access to it. But I can check in a little bit with the team just more about like the setup and like accessing the actual sites.
Michelle, go ahead.
The one at Richland is not fenced. It's in between the parts building and the main showroom, or where all the sales managers and the service thing is, and it's accessible. I don't know how to use it or anything, but it's there, and there's no fence, and you could get to it at any time of day or night.
Thanks, Michelle. Any other questions or comments before we continue? Not see any hands raised or comments in the chat. So at this time, I'm gonna ask Rocio if you would prefer questions during or after your presentation.
Sorry, I think it would be best. We'll just go through the presentation, and I'll go through it. If there's any questions, I don't mind pausing, and answering questions. So that's quite fine. That's okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Rocio. In that case, the floor is yours. Please continue whenever you're ready.
So first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me to speak tonight on behalf of City of Shafter, the Dial-A-Ride program. We're really excited and happy to have been awarded through the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District, the 400,000 K. That's going to help replace 4 gasoline vehicles, which will help us with eliminating zero emissions. So that's going to be pretty good. But getting just right into it, let's just talk a little bit about the program. Let me see if I can move this screen so I could see it a little bit better. But essentially, Shafter Dial Right consists of providing services, door-to-door transportation within the city limits. The Shafter Dial Right provides low-cost transportation to Shafter residents, visitors, including those with limited mobility. Services are provided on a first-come, first-served basis. So it's the order of the call that comes in that we pick up our passengers. Services are available Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4:15 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 to 3 p.m. We just added the Saturday service with funding that we received from LCTOP, low carbon, I forget the acronym, what it fully stands for, but we received money. So we've implemented back the Saturday service back in October of last year. And so we are doing pretty good. The services does not operate on Sundays or on designated holidays. Our Dial Right service request phone number is listed at 661-746-2955, and our website address is the www.shafter.com. Let me see if I can go to the next one. Our Dial Right fare rates for one way. The only thing that we do right now is we do only accept cash. We're looking at other grants that are available to implement so that we are able to accept payments through PayPal, Venmo, make it electronic. So that is one of our goals that we're looking at doing. But currently the general public fare rate is $1.50. Senior citizens ages 62 and over, $1.25. Disabled, $1.25, and youths are from 5 to 12 years old are $1.25, and children 0 to 4 $1.25, and up to 2 children ride free with the paying adult ticket. And then we also do service our outer city areas such as the airport, the industrial park, the Shafter Cemetery, and Gossamer Grove for $4.25 a one-way ticket. We also provide a program. It's called the Frequent Rider Program that's available. If you purchase 10 rides, you essentially get one for free. So those can be purchased directly from the transit drivers, or they can come to City Hall at the finance department and purchase the ticket themselves. And that's for, again, just one way. Then we also have what's called a fixed route. There's particular locations here within the city that are very common that we have requests to go out and do pickups. Unfortunately, this fixed route is on a fixed schedule. Therefore, you have to call for services. So it depends if the drivers have the demand for it and they get a call. They go out to do the pickups, and the fare is fairly priced. It's only 25 cents more than the regular fares for each of the categories. We also offer the same thing, up to 2 children ride for free with the paying adult. And then it provides a time of when they go to these designated areas. So the designated areas that were identified are called the Mexican Colony, Smith's Corner, and the North Kern Labor Camp. And those are the times that our bus drivers go out there to pick up passengers, but they do need to call in and request the service. Otherwise, they will not go out. It's a demand. So that way it doesn't interrupt the regular demand response program. We also just recently, and last year, I believe it was December, we moved with partnership with the Kern Transit, the bus stop was moved. We used to have it located right here on the corner of City Hall, and it was moved for traffic issues and for, health and safety. It was moved to Stringham Park off of James Street and just north of Lerdo Highway. So these are the times. The route is the 110 for from that stops here to goes to Bakersfield and then comes back from Bakersfield. And this is essentially the time that they come and they stop here in Shafter. And this is the bus stop. We are looking at enhancing the area a little bit more and adding possibly additional benches and just tidying it up a little bit more to make it more welcome for the residents to be able to use. But here's the sign for the Kern Transit and the information from Kern Transit as well. If you'd like more information. The Dial Ride program, and talking to staff, we communicated that Administrative Services Department only handles the Dial Ride program. All the other functions for the other charges that you guys were discussing just earlier in the meeting, those are for public works. So we only truly handle whatever's related to public transit is through the Administrative Services Division, which the Administrative Services Director, his name's Rogelio Sanchez. He's the director of the Finance Department, and I am Rocio Mosqueda, the accounting manager, and I oversee the Dial Ride operations. Just to give an idea to the public, we have personnel that's in the full operations. We have one lead full-time driver who handles driving as a backup to the part-time drivers and also does the office work related to the transit. We have two part-time bus drivers and one full-time bus driver. So there's a little bit of frustration sometimes when we get the calls, because if the full-time driver is working all day, then the second shift could either be covered by our second full-time driver or by the part-timers. And there's a little switch while they're switching the vehicles, and there's pre-trip that preparation that's needed. So there is like a maybe 15-20 minute delay while we're changing the vehicles and changing the shift between personnel. But we have a total of 4 drivers on staff at this time. Here's
you have a
yes,
sorry, you have a question. You have a quick question.
Okay.
Michelle, I think you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, on the transit from Delano with the stop and chapter on the way to Bakersfield or vice versa, where do they stop in Bakersfield, or where's the
at the main depot off of Chester, I'm sorry. That's where all the buses from Kern Transit connect there, and then they can get on the Get Bus transit system.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you, Michelle. I actually have a clarifying question to ask as well, Rocio. So you said that you have to call ahead to ask for a dial-a ride. Do you have any information as to how far in advance you can call for a ride, or how soon you can call for a ride?
No, that's only for the fixed routes. So only the designated areas like the Mexican colony and the labor camp, those you have to call in the morning before the time, at least 30-40 minutes before, to let us know that you are wanting a trip out there or you're wanting to be picked up to come into town. So those are the only ones. The regular one-way route, you call in between the hours of 7:30 to 4:15, and you're put in the sequence of when you call in as to be picked up and so on and so forth. The only inconvenience that we might have is I was just going to get into it. We do have a pretty aged fleet. We have a total of 3 gasoline vans right now. They date back to 2012, 2014, and typical limit for replacing the vehicle is 3 to 5 years. So we're kind of going a little bit over on some of our caravans, which this money that we receive from the grant is really going to help, because it's going to replace those vehicles. And then I started with the city in December 21st of 2020, and they had purchased the 2 electric buses. So I was part of the agency when we put them in place. We have had our hiccups with the electric buses, and unfortunately, due to the fact of the manufacturers and those that service the electric buses are not located locally, we have to go over to Los Angeles to get some of those issues fixed and addressed. Sometimes it causes a little bit of issues with the fleet. So we're kind of excited that we're going to be getting 4 new additional ones, and they're more from a manufacturer. They're going to be from Ford E-Transit. So we're looking forward to kind of ease some of the hiccups that we've been experiencing with some of these bigger buses. But everybody really does appreciate the big buses because they're 14 passenger buses. So they can get quite a bit of people versus the smaller vans, which only carry like six passengers. We also have a total of 5 level chargers. We have 3 that are 2 slow chargers and 3 that are 2 slow chargers and 2 that are fast 3 chargers. And these are specifically dedicated for transit. They're not open to the public. So these are just specifically to service our fleet for transit. And they're located at the yard of the Public Works. And this is just to give you an idea. These are the pictures. So the E21 on the bottom, that's the new electric bus that we bought. And then these are some of the older vans that we're going to be replacing with the new Ford E-Transits. We're kind of excited because they're a little bit skinnier. So one of the big issues that we had with the E21, it does have a big capacity for passengers, but getting through the very narrow streets has kind of been difficult. So we've had to switch our pickup passenger to the outside of some of the areas in the city to where it's a curb off the street versus going inside because of the vehicle's too big and the parking of the other vehicles won't allow for a transit vehicle to go in. So these Ford Transits are supposed to be a little bit smaller and skinnier. So we're hoping that we'll be able to service our passengers like what they've been used to with the regular vans. As you guys know, City of Shafter Dalride was awarded the 400 grant from the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District, thanks to the AB 617 Community Emissions Reduction Program. So we'll be replacing these particular vehicles and getting a total of 3 40 Transits and 1 hybrid plug-in Chrysler Pacifica. And so these are all 2023 models. We already received the hybrid plug-in Chrysler Pacifica with the capacity of 6 passengers, and we put in our order for the 40 Transits at the end of December. They say it takes around 60 to 90 days to have a turnaround. So we're hoping to get them by early March, end of March, so that we can put them in operation. And as you know, part of the program is that once we get the new vehicles, we must dismantle and demolish the older vehicles at a facility that's authorized. So we're going to be doing that. But we'd like to thank the Shafter Steering Committee for voting for making us part of the program. When we initially came on board, we met with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution District, and we discussed some of the issues that we were having with the electric buses, and they were very helpful in trying to find funding for the City of Shafter to be able to help us. So without that funding, it wouldn't have been possible to have done it at the rate that we're doing it now. We do, the type of funding that besides this particular grant that the city gets, we also depend a lot on TDA funding, gas tax funding for transportation. So part of the requirement to be able to receive that funding from Kern COG, Kern Council of Governments, is to hold an unmet transit needs public hearing to make sure that we provide community feedback and information regarding any issues that we might not be meeting in public transit that we can feasibly address. So that meeting is scheduled for February 20th, 2024. City Council meeting. It's going to be a public hearing on unmet transit needs. And I'd like to invite the community and anybody that's listening and willing that would like to provide input regarding our transit system to participate in that meeting. I believe they do it via Zoom as well. And then we have a council meeting that's here at the council chambers, I believe. There is going a little bit of remodel here in the office, but I could provide additional information regarding that public hearing, but it is upcoming on February 20th. And then what we do is we hold a meeting, get the comments, and then we provide them to Kern Council of Governments. And every agency is required to do this. So they have to provide the comments so that they make sure that everything's addressed regarding transportation and that there isn't anything that we can feasibly
This is just
meet.
a quick video primarily for music professors this year.
Somebody unmuted themselves. Can you please mute yourselves? You're not speaking. I think it went away. Sorry, Rocio.
No, no problem. And I'd like to thank the opportunity that you guys provided me to give a little bit feedback and overview regarding our program that we have here at City of Shafter, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hi, Rocio. This is Lorena Mendiblis with Caltrans. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, good. I think you were in McFarland first, right? Weren't you working for McFarland, City of McFarland at one time?
Yes, I was.
Yes, okay. Yeah, because I think I emailed you, but I know now you're at City Shafter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if I could get your email information. And then the unmet needs, is that meeting going to take place at Kern Cog or at your agency?
So there's two meetings. The first one is at each of the jurisdictions. So we're going to have it here at City of Shafter. We do our public hearing. We forward our comments to Kern Cog, and then they also hold a separate public hearing on top of that. So
Okay.
there's plenty of opportunity for public comment and public participation regarding the transit.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I also wanted to reach out as well. I am going to be transitioning over to a transit coordinating position here at Caltrans, and so any information or transit needs that is needed, especially on state routes, I would like to be contacted, and I will be reaching out to the smaller communities like McFarland, City of Shafter, and for Kern and Tulare. And so I'm hoping that I can circle back later and discuss, any funding opportunities regarding transit. So thank you again.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
We do hold a quarterly meeting at Kern Cog for all transit operators, which brings us all the local rural transportation public operators into one meeting. So I'd be more than happy to share that information with you. I'm pretty sure they'd be happy to have you at one of the meetings and introduce yourself so that we can all work together.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rocio. I have a question from Bianca in the chat. She wants to know when the time of the public comment meeting is. I believe the one on the 20th.
Okay, so
on the
our
previous
council
slide.
meetings start at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and so they run until they're over. I can provide you the agenda, or you're more than welcome, whoever, to go to our city website at www.shafter.com and go to the city council meeting and agenda, and you'll be able to see the meeting and place and information regarding whether it's going to be a Zoom meeting, and it provides all the details.
Thank you, Rocio. Stephanie, you have your hand raised.
Thanks, Vanessa, and thanks, Rocio, so much for presenting all of this information. Maybe a quick question I have for you is that kind of similar. It seems like folks are interested in participating with this process. We typically will share out updates following the meeting. And maybe just to simplify things, I'm wondering if following the meeting, you can share with our team that information and we can just share it out with the whole group. That way folks can participate. And I may be just wondering also just generally with this, like if folks haven't participated in an unmet needs like assessment before, can you give us like a sense or example of the types of things that they might provide comment on, like things like buses, bike lanes, like what types of things would folks provide comment on?
Well, one of the issues that was brought to our attention was that they were requesting the weekend service for transit, and that was one of the needs that we were looking at meeting. So is this something that we could feasibly do? And so of course there's some requirements and some tests that you have to run in order to determine whether this is something that's feasible for us to do or not to do. Another one could be they might want us to have additional personnel. They feel that there isn't enough personnel, or whatever issues that they encounter that they haven't had the opportunity or haven't called in and provided comment to the staff. that's another way that they go to the council meeting and they present their concerns. And not unfortunately, but we hear them out, but it might not be necessarily a need that's not met. We provide comment, but we also use it as a tool to be able to identify things that can be addressed that are not considered unmet, but there's just an issue that needs to be looked at or something that we need to work on or get back feedback to the community regarding our transit division.
Thanks for that response. And for folks that are interested, we'll plan on sharing this out in an email so that folks can take a look and participate if they're interested.
Thanks, Stephanie. I have one more question for you, Rocio, in the chat. Can you please speak about whether there will be interpretation services at the city council meeting for public comment?
Vanessa, I believe that there is, but I can confirm that and get back to you guys so that you guys can help me put the word out. But I believe there is. I believe that there is an interpreter.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you, Rocio, for looking into that. Any other questions or comments from folks about the Dial-A-Ride program or any of the info that you all heard today? Not seeing anything at this time, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat at any time. I see that Rocio has also included her email in the chat. So hopefully folks will feel welcome to use her email to reach out with any questions about the Dial-A-Ride program as well. So please use that as a resource.
And just one last comment, these unmet public transit hearings are an annual requirement. So just because you didn't do it this year doesn't mean you can't participate next year, because we typically do it by March of every year, annual public hearing. So we'll either do the last meeting in February or first meeting in March, and it's an unmet transit needs hearing for the public to be able to provide comment.
Yeah, thanks for driving that point home, Rocio. Very important for folks to provide public comment, and really thankful for you being here today, providing all this wonderful information. And I hope some folks can take advantage of this program in the near future.
Definitely appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'd like to transition on to our next agenda item, which is a brief air monitoring update. The goal for this item is to provide an informational update and address some of the concerns that Shafter folks have voiced related to odors in the community as well as dust. As a reminder, air monitoring is beneficial to the community because it can serve as an important tool, not just ensure that individuals and businesses in Shafter are complying with local regulations, but it also has a potential to have a great impact on resident health and improve air quality by preventing further emissions in Shafter. So today, the Air District will be providing the CSC with information about the status of air monitoring, data collection, and analysis, as well as the status of community air monitoring network implementation. And we would like everyone to please note that this update is meant to be brief, and that a more in-depth air monitoring update will be shared at the next month's CSC meeting. So at the February CSC meeting, you'll be getting a lot more information about air monitoring. This is just a teaser. After the Air District's update, we will open the floor to questions and comments. And as always, your feedback will be very helpful. In this case, it'll help the Air District prepare for next month's more comprehensive air monitoring update. So definitely encourage you to share your thoughts, your questions, reflections during this time. And please don't hesitate to raise your hand to share, or you can also share in the chat if you would rather do that. So before we continue, does anyone have any questions? I'm not seeing anything. So Stephanie, would you prefer questions during or after your presentation?
Thanks, Vanessa. I think there's a couple of breaking like kind of sections in our presentation, and so we'll pause after each section for questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Vanessa. And today I'll be presenting with Tanner and Robert Gillis from our air monitoring team. I'm going to kick off the presentation, but just wanted to reiterate a couple of points that Vanessa mentioned. Like she said, this presentation is kind of stemmed from a couple of things. One of those is in response to some questions and concerns that community members had. One related to dust in the community, and two related to odor. This was a concern that folks brought up a little while ago, back in, I believe, last May. And this presentation will kind of describe high level, kind of process wise, how the district responded to these concerns, and how, kind of like Vanessa mentioned, this is almost setting up a presentation to kind of have a further air monitoring discussion in our February meeting. And so as you all have questions, we'll do our best to answer them today, but any kind of big questions that you have about air monitoring, please let us know, and we'll plan to kind of fold them in and address them in our February meeting as well. So with that, those are, again, the couple of topics we'll talk about, kind of our response to the dust in the community, odor concerns near Highway 99 and Lerdo Highway. And finally, we'll present a quick update on the air monitoring network, the final site that we're looking to put up in the La Colonia area. First, we'll kind of discuss dust and low dust nut harvesters in the community. We had this question come up in our last CSC meeting and also our agenda setting meeting for those of you who were able to join the agenda setting meeting. In these meetings, CSC members have had questions about the low dust nut harvesters that are operating in the community and their impact on dust. A couple of things that the district is a couple of ways in which the district is responding to these concerns and is continuing to respond is analyzing the community air quality data. And so this is in response to concerns, but also just a long-term commitment we have to you all and the committee is, of course, we do have our community air monitors set up, and we want to analyze the data to see what impacts are happening in the community. We are also conducting outreach to folks that might participate in the program in high priority areas. There are areas that community members have let us know that there's a lot of dust, especially during harvest season, as you know, I think it's top of mind because we just had a harvest season pass. So we are continuing to conduct outreach. And then also, this was something that Rocio mentioned in our action items, but also something that came up in our last agenda setting. If it is of interest and supported by the CSC, we could potentially consider a funding reallocation to support the replacement of additional conventional equipment. And so this kind of GIF, the picture that's moving here on the side, is just a reminder to us of what kind of equipment. The bottom one is kind of the conventional nut harvesting equipment, and the top, it's not zero dust, but it's a low dust nut harvester equipment that's operating in the community thanks to the AB 617 program. Next slide, please. So as a reminder to folks, I'll just talk really high level about the measure that's in our Community Emissions Reduction Program, or CERP. To date, there are 25 conventional almond harvesters that have been replaced with low dust harvesters in the Shafter AB 617 community. These 25 harvesters are estimated to reduce over the equipment's lifetime about a little over 137 tons of PM 2.5 and over 34 tons of NOx. So we have this measure that's in the CERP. All of the funding has been spent in the measure, but that doesn't mean that the district can't continue to conduct outreach. We do have a valley-wide program that's available. There is a bit of a wait list for it, and it has a lower incentive amount, but that doesn't mean that we can't continue to reach out to folks about that program. And then also work with you all should there be interest to explore options for funding reallocation. And so that we are continuing to reach out to growers, particularly around the La Colonia area where we know there are homes really close to fields. And then also we can consider reallocating funds to support additional replacements if the CSC does support it.
Maybe I could try a speaker or something.
Somebody came off of mute. If you could mute yourself if you're not speaking. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. And just to kind of put it in context, we are aware of about 10 individuals who would take advantage of the program if more funding would become available. And so this is just kind of context. We just have heard that there could be potential interest in the committee to take advantage of additional funds to support this measure. And so this is just us bringing kind of more information to you all about kind of the situation with the low dust nut harvesters and how the measure stands as now. And kind of the other half of this is in terms of the air quality data, something that we did want to explore is potentially understanding the impact these impacts that we're seeing in the data. And so right now I'll go ahead and pass to Tanner and our air quality team to go over the rest of the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Yeah. I'm Tanner Johnston. I work in the AQA department. So work with a lot of air quality analysis. So of course I'm here to kind of take it from here and look at some of the analysis side of things. But again, of course, next month we'll have another meeting where I'll probably be, presenting something else and probably answering more analysis questions. So, since 2023 started and we've, given out these low dust nut harvesters, we've actually seen a decrease in average PM2.5 of about 5 to 10 micrograms. And for PM10 averages, we have also seen approximately an average of about 16 micrograms lower. And the reason why we're comparing our current data with a 3-year average is because having an average of multiple years is much more representative of the typical conditions, probably around this harvesting season. The only other thing to mention is that for PM10 specifically, we had to use 2021 through 2022 data because, of course, the Shafter DMV site, the only one that records PM10 data for Shafter, wasn't put up until late 2020. But other than that, we have seen, quite the reduction in comparison to the past few years in both PM10 and PM2.5. So now, the exact cause of these PM10 levels and PM2.5 levels being lower could be a result of multiple factors. And cannot be, solely attributed to, low dust nut harvesters. But, many other conditions matter as well. Weather conditions such as wind speed, wind direction, and of course, other contributors such as the distance from the monitor are all very important factors. Of course, dust and stuff from farming and harvesting and all of that, typically travels short distances to nearby particulate matter monitors. And in this instance, we don't necessarily know the harvester locations or the activity amounts. So improved PM levels are most likely a combination of, multiple local emission reduction methods. Probably not just low dust nut harvesters, but probably including that as well. And as well as more regional air quality improvements. The last thing that we have to talk about is a mysterious odor, apparently, that many, multiple Shafter residents have smelled, and the CSC requested that the district begin some monitoring to help, identify, possible sources of this foul-smelling odor. The district actually did begin monitoring near the Highway 99 and Laredo Highway back in May of 2023. What was found was that There were no elevated levels of PM 2.5, H2S, or SO2. Hydrogen sulfide, H2S, being the foul-smelling compound, one of the many foul-smelling compounds, but the one that was recorded. Um, and The only other notable thing is that NO2 values were slightly elevated. But the reasoning behind that is this monitoring station was positioned, I mean, as it says in the name, next to Highway 99 and Lerdo Highway. And so that is just thought to be emissions from, many, many vehicles, passing on the freeway, and many people, pulling off of the freeway. And there's a lot of traffic and a lot of activity over there, when it comes to vehicles. And the other notable thing is that the team that went and set up this van monitor, and performed maintenance and stuff on it as well, never observed an odor when they were there. But of course, we'll continue monitoring this into the winter, through this winter. And please, if you're able, if you smell that smelly smell, please go ahead and report it to us, or notify us as quickly as possible, so we can have a bit more, a pretty good time frame of when this might be occurring, and we might be able to do a bit more. So I'm excited to possibly continue that analysis. The last
Sorry, Tanner, you
oh.
have a question, Linda?
Oh, yeah.
Please go ahead.
Going back to your last item about the smell, I'm just curious, that van you were collecting data, was that on the east side of the highway by the water tank?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And so I just wanted to kind of clarify where the smell was coming from. So it's coming from the freeway area? Because it said 99 in Laredo, so there's 4 corners there. I mean, there's a gas station, and it's kind of empty. So I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, we're not sure if that's where the smell is directly coming from. There is a garlic, plant and some other things over there that, may produce, something like that. But when our team was out there and everything, they weren't able to smell anything. And hydrogen sulfide wasn't very elevated, through all of our recordings. And so currently it's, a bit inconclusive. The only thing that we really saw was elevated NO2, but that's likely due to, freeway hustle and bustle. Other than that, we're just going to continue monitoring it and see if we can find any more evidence for it.
And I might be able to add a little bit there. Good job, Tanner. Thank you. So, hi, I'm Robert Gillis. The idea too is also to collect feedback from the community on where the odors might be coming from to try to help. That's the purpose of the monitoring with the van, is to help identify where the odors are coming from. So our placement of the van, I think, was mostly informed by the reports of the odors. And so we're hoping to help investigate and identify where the odors are coming from. That's something that we do not know at this time. So that's why on the bulleted there on that slide, any continued experiences of odor, if you can report those to us, that can definitely help us to get closer to identifying the source. I hope that helps on that question.
And I think that
Thank
might
you
be
so much.
related, that might be related to a question that's in the chat. If you could provide a location or map of the smell and where it's coming from. Is that question asking the air district to provide that, or Lorena, are you asking people who are reporting to?
Yeah, hello, this is Lorena Mendivas with Caltrans. Yeah, if it's on the state route, that's something that we should be notified in regards to a smell. It would be helpful to know if you have a map or if there's a cross street that you can tell us the exact area. That way we can at least send some of our maintenance guys out there to see, it's better to be safe than sorry. And so, if you have any other information, please send to me and I can maybe have someone drive out there as well. So if it's either the Air Resource Board or the community, if they know any information, that would be helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Lorna. Maybe just to clarify for folks, if you are experiencing an odor in the community, definitely report it to the air district because we can send out staff to monitor and go out to the location. And then also Lorena is sharing that their team can possibly send maintenance staff as well. So those are two different areas in which you could report.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Lorena. Linda, does that answer your question or do you have a follow-up question? Linda, can you hear me? We'll get back to Linda. Angelica, I saw that you had your hand raised. Please go ahead.
¿Puedes decir eso de los olores de que estaba mencionando?
Sí, mi nombre es Antonio López y oí que estaban hablando de eso, de los olores que están en el Lerdo y 99. Eso depende para dónde va el viento, pero todo el tiempo lo agarra uno en sus carros porque es una comparación como cuando va por un camino, carretera y pasa cerca de un zorrillo muerto. Se lo lleva el olor en el carro. Pero en este caso de la fábrica que está allí, no sé cómo se llama, qué nombre tiene, pero donde hacen la lámina para las casas y la fábrica de ajo. Esa todo el tiempo está despidiendo olores, aunque a algunas personas nos gusta el olor del ajo y más rostizado. Y es lo que quería mencionar. Las personas que estaban allí, posiblemente en ese momento estaba el viento para otro lado y no le llegó el olor. Y acerca del polvo de las almendras, eso que están mencionando, levantadoras, chequeadoras, no hacen tanto polvo. El polvo lo hacen las moledoras, las que ponen la hoja y las que le llaman sweeper, las barredoras y el blower, porque yo trabajo en esto y produce mucho polvo. Esas dos máquinas más la moledora. Y eso lo quería comentarles porque yo trabajo en eso. Y es todo por ahorita. Gracias.
Yeah, I'll just comment. This is Robert Gillis again. Thank you for the feedback about the odors and the persistence of the odors during the driving by. So I hope that we'll be able to observe that when we place the van in the location again around Lerdo and 99, and that will definitely be helpful. I agree that wind direction and the overall wind conditions will influence where we park and then if we can smell it, and then what we would pick up on the air monitors that are in the van. So this right now is our sharing of what we did experience when we were there, that we didn't smell the odors. So it's not as surprising that we don't see as much data in the van, monitoring data that would suggest wind direction of where the odors were coming from. So we hope to continue to place the van and monitor in this area more so that we can hope to be there when the odors are smelled, and then we can compare to the data that's collected with the monitoring van. And the feedback about the almond equipment and operation is helpful as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Angelica, for voicing that very valid concern. Was there anything else that you wanted to share?
Eso se fue todo mi papá. No, yo nomás se prendía la cosa para él y apuntar la cámara. Eso se fue todo.
Thank you so much. John, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, and there is a large feedlot that is not very far from that site and just to the east. And in that area often the two primary odors I think are coming either from the garlic plant or from that feedlot. You can go on Google Earth and look at that site and you'll see the size of that feedlot. And usually hydrogen sulfide or that smell that's there is, I think, probably predominantly coming from that location. But a place to look for sure.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Linda, I see that you still have your hand raised. Just double checking to see if you had a question or comment to share before we continue.
I'm sorry, I'll put my hand down. I heard my question answered. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I'm going to pass the mic back to Tanner.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for all your great questions. One more thing about the PM 2.5 monitor at La Colonia. Where the district is currently working with PG&E in the city of Shafter to install some electrical infrastructure. We are shooting for location number 1 on this awesome little map here. But of course, if it doesn't work out, it's not good for the electrical infrastructure to be there, or the situation changes somehow, then location 2 is going to be the alternate spot. And of course, the plans to be submitted in 2023, and of course, construction is going to start later this year. So, and a whole nice little summary of what we kind of talked about today. Looked at our improved PM 2.5 and PM 10 values that we've been seeing this year. And we're going to continue working with the CSC for more outreach and incentive programs to, of course, improve our dust reductions and stuff. And maybe we'll even see better improvements. And we didn't find any abnormal data for our odor investigation, but of course we're going to continue and hopefully find something to update the community on. And then our last little update from the last slide, possible locations of the La Colonia PM 2.5 monitor. So, oh yes, Stephanie.
Tanner, this is Stephanie. I was wondering if I could maybe just add a little bit of context also for the slide, just the previous slide there.
Oh yeah, oh of course.
Perfect. So I think as most folks on the call know, this is our final site that we've been working really diligently on for our community air monitoring network. It's a PM 2.5 monitor at La Colonia. We have been working with one of our CSC members, Dora, on the location number 1. Our team has probably been reaching out every 2 weeks to a contractor to help, who's working with PG&E in the city of Shafter. All we really are looking to install is an electrical box so we can kind of get this set up, and it unfortunately hasn't been as quick as we would like. And so just to maybe reiterate Tanner's point, an option that we have upcoming in the spring is we actually had Kern County. Kern County was originally who we were looking to work with. And they actually gave us a call last month to let us know that they are, and so folks might be aware of this already, but kind of across the street in that spot number 2, Kern County is working on a park. And so they actually called us last month to let us know that they are continuing these plans for the park just across the street from where we were looking to originally, or that we were looking to kind of get a site set up. And so if things don't pan out with location number 1 in the spring, as they are constructing this park, we'll look to work with Kern County on potentially getting the PM 2.5 monitor there. I just wanted to provide a quick update there.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah.
And that's it. If anyone has any further questions.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Tanner, for that presentation. And thanks to the folks who provided their questions and comments during the presentation as well. Like I mentioned previously, this is meant to be a brief air monitoring update, but definitely looking forward to hearing any feedback, including additional questions, reflections about what you just heard about and saw. So please feel free to either raise your hand or you can also comment in the chat regarding today's presentation. And Bianca, I see you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Sorry, I waited until the last moment. I didn't know when to ask my question, but I did have questions on the nut, the low dust nut harvesters. One thing, I saw in the presentation that Stephanie mentioned that there were 3 individuals who would want to take advantage of it. Has the air district considered of doing the green barriers instead of the nut harvesters? And another question that I do have, has the air district measure, not measure, but looked out for those growers that already have the nut harvesters, if they're using it inside the boundaries? I know that there's some companies that do have outside of the boundaries, but I was wondering, are they using them inside the boundaries? And how is the district measuring? Secondly, how much is the air district providing right now that they do have the program open? Is it 50%, 25%? How much is the air district providing with their own pile of money for the nut harvesters? And has the air district reached out to those 10 individuals that would want to apply from the district funding? And if the recommendation for also green barriers are in the application, because that could also do the reduction on this dust in the community.
Thanks, Bianca. I heard 3 questions. I'll take a stab at addressing them, but I know we have Ryan Dominowski here. And Ryan, feel free to jump in for any of these responses. So the first is Bianca was asking about, so we do understand in working with the dealers in the area that there are about 5 to 10 individuals that would be interested in participating in this measure if there was the enhanced incentive amount. So maybe starting a little bit just like in terms of the question that you just asked about whether or not we've done outreach on the valley-wide kind of regular program. We have done outreach on it, and it is pretty apparent just in terms of our like interactions with folks that the enhanced incentive amount that comes with the AB 617 program does really help incentivize folks and allow them to take part in the program. And so that's kind of the feedback that we got from those folks that were interested. They could be interested if there were additional funds through AB 617. And then maybe to your question just about whether or not for those folks we've reached out to about the vegetative barriers measure. And so we are looking to do outreach on vegetative barriers measure. I think it's a great idea to, at least reach out to folks to see that if they are interested in participating. And so we are working on that outreach. I will say maybe just overall for maybe context and background, vegetative barriers is a measure that is a little bit more difficult for growers to take advantage of. It is something that takes a bit, an investment in their company, and it takes folks potentially even, working to get permission to plant on certain areas. It takes them being able to maintain it for several years. Per our project plan and kind of the RFP that we have out, we want to make sure that things are planted in the community are staying alive in the community. And so we do want to make sure whoever applies for the program is able to maintain them for 10 years. And then also, there are some other financial barriers to folks participating. We heard from Wonderful, who is a participant in this program, who we just heard from their proposal last meeting that we had, that there were some fees incurred with them taking out certain trees to be able to plant the barriers. And so I just say this all with the context of it does take a little bit for folks to be able to take advantage of the program. Not that we don't want to continue to do the outreach. In terms of, Bianca, you had a question about operation of the low dust nut harvesters in the community. So as part of the program, in order for them to receive funding, they have to be based and operate in the boundary. And to your point of or question about how the district verifies, they are required to do reporting for the incentive funding that they received to purchase the equipment. They are required to do reporting there. I'm wondering, is there any other question that I missed, Bianca?
Is the air district by any chance doing any monitoring during harvesting season in those areas where the nut harvesters are at? Because it's just a word of mouth. The application is if they're in the boundaries, but in reality, are they really using it? Would the air district take that extra measure in making sure that or letting the residents know that this grower or this section of shafter they have a low harvester, so they could at least see if the measure is being completed or not. Secondly, I know that you were mentioning that it does take some time for the green barriers to fulfill the application, but I think it should be encouraged. It should not be discouraged, because growers do get a lot. In the first nut harvester application, they did receive a good amount of money. Those applicants did receive, as you mentioned, not only what the air district already has, but an extra incentive. So I think we should really reconsider not giving more to the industry, but giving the opportunity to apply for other programs like the green barriers, because it's not a completely dust-free community. There's still some dust that are coming inside the community, and that green vegetative barriers will prevent a little bit of that dust to come inside. As the district already saw that Wonderful is doing their part, I think other growers should also take advantage of that and see that there's some changes that could happen in the community if everybody puts their part. I know that is one line of trees, but the difference that it makes in the health wise in the community is way, way bigger. And I think it should be incentivized if the applicants that already received the nut harvesters could submit those applications like Wonderful did.
Thanks, Bianca. I 100% agree. Maybe I'll start with your first question just about verifying and understanding if they're operational. I'll speak maybe generally across all of our district programs of how like our programs work to ensure that we are achieving emission reductions. And so typically for our programs, in order for someone to receive this incentive funding for like a cleaner piece of equipment or zero emission piece of equipment, they have to be scrapping an older piece of equipment. And showing that their new equipment is operating in the community. That's how we see those emission reductions, right? If we have a piece of equipment that's operating and causing emissions, and then we have someone replace it and not using it, we're not seeing those emission reductions. And so that's why we verify that they can't use their old equipment by scrapping that equipment. And then also just in terms of kind of usage, again, this is something that we are able to determine with reporting. They do report to us the number of acreage that they are using kind of their equipment on. And this is something that we do check. We want to make sure the equipment is operating in the community to ensure that it's getting used and providing benefits to community. And then I just also wanted to clarify the question that you had, so I took some notes just about also the vegetative berries. I 100% agree. I definitely want to encourage this to be a program for anyone to take advantage of. I only share kind of those limitations because it is a program that we're finding it to be a little bit more challenging for folks to participate. It's not necessarily like, you know, our lawnmower program where it's like we're trying to give away a free lawnmower to someone. It takes some investment. So that's the only reason I mentioned that, but that doesn't mean that we're not still going to continue to do outreach and encourage folks to participate in the program. 100% think that we are, you know, we want to see these barriers in the community and we'll still continue to do outreach and work with folks. And to your point about Wonderful taking advantage of the program, I know that they've even shared themselves that they, you know, hope to be an example and share their experiences with other folks that could participate to share, you know, their experience going through the program and what it was like to participate in the program to hopefully make it, you know, easier for folks to see that it's possible for, you know, other businesses to take advantage.
Can
And
the
then-
Air District provide that information to the growers that already applied for the nut harvesters? As an example, that there's some good neighborhoods, neighbors that work in the ag, but do want to make changes in the community.
Yeah, maybe to your point, I do think, and then for folks that, I know that there were a handful of folks that attended because they're part of the, both committees. We recently had a meeting in Arvin, Lamont, where we also talked about vegetative barriers. And folks in that committee had a really great idea to maybe put together a quick, like, one pager of, if I was the business, how could I participate in the program? Like, what is this program, and that information? So I do think that as we're reaching out to folks, that's something that the district is planning on putting together and can share out, just to get folks aware of the program. And if folks are interested, we could be, should they be willing and able to, we could definitely connect them to Wonderful. And then maybe I'll just respond. I saw Linda had a question about, let me go back to the chat, expanding barriers to city, county, and Caltrans. I'll just share overall, any kind of public agency or entity, there's something specific that's much more like official in our project plan, but overall, kind of all of the entities that you just mentioned are public agencies that could take advantage of the program.
Okay, thank you. I was just asking because I think in our last meeting or agenda setting meeting, we had mentioned that maybe if the farmers couldn't put up the ag barriers because they have to take out trees and it's going to cost a lot of money, that maybe on the roadway where, I don't really know where the right of way of Caltrans or a city road or county road ends and begins and where the farmland meets. But I was just wondering if we could maybe reach out to them to see if there's anything that they could do to assist. That was all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. I think that's a great suggestion. And I do see Lorena here, and I know, Lorena, you're not quite the person that in your department that works on those type of greening projects, but I know that my team has been in contact with yours just to discuss the measure a little more, and we can maybe talk offline about opportunities with this measure.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, we are very excited about this idea, but it would be our landscape architect who would be in charge of what type of trees and shrubs. And then we would also want to be partnering with the County of Kern to make sure that they're happy with what's going to be planted out there, what the city and what the community actually wants. So that would be it. But yeah, we can talk after.
Thanks, everyone. I see that Bianca has her hand raised. Bianca, go ahead.
I wanted to do a follow-up with what Linda was mentioning, that there's also some limitation. I know that the company Wonderful had in the past issues to see what right of way does Caltrans have, PG&E, and the city of Shafter. So I think also having those key players when those applications are happening, like the 10 potential applicants, to let them know, like, hey, this is the right of way of your lot. At least have that information when it comes to those applicants, so it can facilitate the application much faster. I think it would be good for the Air District to facilitate that conversation. And now that we have a lot of the key players in the meeting.
Thank you for that suggestion, Bianca. Linda, you have your hand raised.
I also just wanted to bring to Lorena's attention, since we're all here, we have the sidewalk measure to put the sidewalks north of Shafter. And so I know that that's not exactly what we're talking about with dust as an ag barrier. But what I did wanted to bring up was that there's homes there, and they're, I'm going to say, what, 20 feet off of the 4-lane freeway that you travel between Shafter and Wasco. And so if there's a possibility for Caltrans to put some type of ag barrier to protect those folks from the car emissions, I feel like that would be another great resource of ag barrier money to protect them from dust from the car, and emissions. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, and that's something that I think for our Caltrans project managers that would have to be involved as well. So that would be more of a agency to agency conversation to make sure that that would be something that you would want to be built. But yeah, we can maybe have a meeting after, like maybe next week or so.
Well, and I believe that the grant funding is putting in those sidewalks. So I'm not sure where the city of Shafter is with that, but maybe, I don't know the conversations that you have with the city of Shafter, but maybe everyone could work together as they're putting in the sidewalks, you know, that we have an area to put some type of barrier to protect those folks.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, everyone, for all of your great questions. Does anyone else have anything to share related to the air monitoring update or any of the other topics that we've been discussing? So vegetative barriers, low dust nut harvesters.
And vegetative barriers, we will talk about also in the next item too. So I would say hold off on that until we get the update, but anything else we can do now.
This is Stephanie. Maybe I'll just share for, folks, you know, we just had this quick air monitoring update in this meeting, but as folks think about maybe what they're interested in seeing in the air monitoring data, please, you know, come to the agenda setting, email us. Our team wants to make sure to put together a presentation that is of interest and kind of answers any questions that community members have. So our team is here kind of listening and ready to take any questions and comments that you have to help set up a really hopefully productive and informational air monitoring update in the next meeting. And if there's anyone interested in working in some of our other communities, we actually do kind of work with community members to review ahead of the meeting and kind of shape the presentation. If anyone's interested in that and, you know, while they're out there potentially co-hosting the next meeting, please let us know. We'd love to have folks help give us feedback and help shape our presentations and agenda.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think that's a great transition to the next item, which is the SERP measure implementation update. And so the Air District is going to share some high-level updates about two specific measures. One we already started to talk about, the vegetative barriers, and then the other one is the fireplace wood stove change-out measure. The benefit to the community of these measures would be to reduce emissions from roads, highways, and of course, wood stoves. This presentation will be mostly informational. The Air District wants the CSC members to get more information about these two measures. And Air District folks, as you presented, I'd like to remind you to remind us what each measure is, because we've talked about a bunch of measures kind of interchangeably. And so when you're talking about or changing which measure you're talking about, remind us which measure you're talking about and what that is. As always, we encourage you all to ask questions. And Stephanie, would you like questions during the update or at the end, or how would you like that to go?
I am happy to take them anytime.
Great. Well, the floor is yours.
Perfect. And again, my name is Stephanie, and I'm going to be presenting part of this. And we've already, like Diana and Vanessa mentioned, dug into one of the topics that we wanted to discuss. And so happy to hear all of the questions and the continued interest in those measures. We have also a couple of updates on our clean air rooms and then our outreach measures that Michelle will, from our Air District team, is planning on presenting as well. So I'll go ahead and get us kicked off for a brief update on our vegetative barriers and urban greening measure, and pass to Michelle for some outreach and clean air rooms update measure, clean air rooms, and then also fireplace and wood stove change out updates. So as an update to folks, Rocio mentioned this during action items earlier, but during our November meeting, we did present a host of updates in terms of our, especially our urban greening and vegetative barriers measure. We had one proposal with the city of Shafter to plant across a couple of different parks and public spaces in the community, and then also a proposal from Wonderful to plant across 3 locations in the community. And so we are excited to share that we have sent out contracts to these entities to be able to finalize. And this is just an important next step because once the contracts are finalized, folks will be able to start, get that work started. I know we're already hearing from some of the groups that they're looking forward to a spring planting. So we'll hope to see this work in the community soon enough. And then also just in terms of kind of our urban greening and vegetative barriers measure, as an update to folks, our urban greening measure had 500,000 allocated to it, in which the city of Shafter did apply for all of that funding. For our vegetative barriers measure, like this conversation is going on, there is still funding available. And so we have started and will continue in these next couple of weeks and hope to bring you all an update in the next meeting, continued outreach to get other folks to apply for it. So some of the folks that we've continued to work on kind of with both in our Vermont community and in this community is potentially working with Caltrans, potentially working with different schools. And then also, like we've heard some folks mention, maybe doing some outreach to growers in the area that could, and businesses that could potentially take advantage of the program as well. So just wanting to kind of lay the framework that we are still continuing the outreach, especially because we do have a good amount of funding remaining in these measures, and plan to continue to update you all as we hopefully hear back from some folks who could be interested in participating. With that, I'll go ahead and pass to Michelle.
Hi, thanks, Steph. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Rivera. I'm a part of the outreach and communication team for the Valley Air District. I'll just be providing a quick update for the outreach that we've been doing in Shafter. So our team has conducted outreach for the fireplace and wood stove changeout program during the fall months, and we will continue to do so during the winter months. So as you see here, these flyers were shared during school drop-off and pickup times. And these are at the school districts during when the parents drop off their kids or pick up their kids. So we provided packets to parents and just shared information. We will continue sharing these flyers and program information during air purifier distribution events, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Next slide. So our communication team has also utilized paid media for our fireplace and wood stove change out program. And this is utilized during the fall and winter months as well. One example of this is the Instant Experience campaign, which was used specifically for social media. And that was used on the Facebook platform. This concept utilized the Believe It theme, which was used for television and digital ads as well. And this is just a theme that we're using actual people that have received funding or have gone through the program, and we've used them to create our ads, and we place them out there in the community. Another form of paid media that was utilized was search engine marketing, and this uses search data and targets ad placement to residents in the community. Next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about our Clean Air Rooms program. The outreach and communication team offered one in-person air purifier distribution event in December. We partnered with the Water Bill Assistance event, and this was held by the City of Shafter. And it was also promoted through the Shafter Lions Club. This event took place on December 7th, and we offered residents assistance to apply to the Clean Air Rooms program, and they had the opportunity to take home an air purifier that same day. As you see here, 82 residents applied for the program that day, and 50 were able to take home the air purifiers. So we will continue to do these events. Next slide. We are continuing to do these in-person events. And that being said, we've confirmed 2 events in January in the city of Shafter. On January 12th, we will be doing the Shafter Family Resource Center distribution, and this is the food distribution. And we will also be distributing these air purifiers in person. The event will take place on the corner of Atlantic and North Valley from 9 to 11 a.m. And we will have a second event on January 25th, and this will be during the Jesus Saves food distribution. And this event will take place at 425 South Shafter Avenue, and this is from 3 to 5 p.m. We can share these flyers with you guys if you haven't received them already. And we'll continue to share future events with the CSC. If you know of any events or agencies that would like to host a air purifier distribution event, feel free to reach out to me or Rocio or even Stephanie. I'll drop my contact information in the chat for you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions for Michelle or Stephanie about vegetative barriers or the wood stove change out or the air purifiers? And Michelle right now is, I see, typing her contact information into the chat so that any of you can reach out to her if you have any questions or ideas for places for them to partner with to distribute air purifiers.
Thanks, Michelle. And we'll plan to send out an email with all of the information for these events for you all to share with your friends, your neighbors, your families who haven't signed up for the program yet. And yeah, just continuing to reiterate, if you have any events in the community, please let us know. We'll definitely look into it. And we want to go to more events and pass out these purifiers. So let us know if you know of anything happening in the community.
Thank you. And Michelle just put her contact information into the chat if any of you would like that. Angelica, I see you have a hand raised. Go for it.
Tengo una pregunta, soy el papá de Angélica. Tengo una pregunta. Wonderful en Los Hills.
Go for it.
Está repartiendo purificadores de aire, pero solamente para las personas que viven en Los Hills. Es por parte de en Los Hills, que está ahí por la 46 y 33. Y ahí es esta área donde tiene sus files Wonderful. Y está repartido, bueno, estuvo en el 2023 repartiendo, pero solamente para su gente de ahí de Los Hills. ¿Cómo lo hizo para agarrarlo con ustedes? ¿O él tiene ya su propia distribución? Es una pregunta nomás.
Stephanie, it looks like you have an answer.
Thank you. And maybe I just want to clarify, see Maricela's comment in the chat. And I just want to check, is this related? Maybe I didn't hear it correctly in the interpretation. Is this related to Lost Hills?
Las personas que viven en Lost Hills. Yo trabajo en esa área.
Yeah, okay.
Por eso les comenté a varias personas de ahí con yo trabajo. Le dije, pues si Lost Hills es parte de Wonderful y Wonderful le está dando esos aparatos, pues aprovechen ahora. Aunque también nosotros tenemos acá en Chapter, pero yo no sé si califican ustedes. Y les hice saber de esas dos opciones. No, pues es que ahí piden muchos requisitos, pero como una área de Lost Hills es parte de Wonderful, ella tiene su propio pueblo allí en su propiedad. Tumbó árboles, files para hacer casas. A lo mejor le pasó por gente, no sé, era mi pregunta.
Thanks for your question. Maybe I can help clarify, and then yeah, Mari, let me know if this is responding to answers all the questions, but we do have our air purifier program, the one that gives away free air purifiers to residents within our Shafter AB 617 community. So that's a program that we have. A couple of months back, there was in the community of Lost Hills a fire that was, it led to smoke in the community. And as a result of that, the company Wonderful ended up purchasing on their own and distributing to residents air purifiers. So those are two separate efforts that are happening. The air purifiers that were given away in Lost Hills is not part of AB 617, but was in response, kind of something that Wonderful took on their own. Does that answer your question?
And there's a question in the chat about.
Sí,
Oh,
porque
sorry.
yo trabajé en estos días ahí, el incendio ese estuvo al pie de la sierra que está ahí, pasó 33, entre medio de Seven Stand, de 3 a la 46, y una calle que se llama Brown Material, y ahí estuvo el incendio por mucho tiempo, maybe unas 2 semanas. Era un zacate bajito que yo no sé por qué lo dejarían que se quemara. A lo mejor le convendría a ellos. Bueno, es lo que pensé yo, pero porque pues yo trabajaba de noche y miraba ahí como... A mí me servía porque me daba luz cuando pasaba. Ya es que eso sí lo comprobé yo. Pero nomás quería saber si tenía algo que ver con eso la compañía de guantes. Porque fue cuando estuvo repartiendo esos aparatos.
Yeah.
And I think there's a question in the chat from Angie about, do we know how many have been handed out? And I think that's related to the air purifiers.
Yes. Angie, is your question how many have given, so maybe just two separate ones, two separate responses. 50 were given away at that one event, but I think you might be asking generally about the program overall. I have kind of our latest numbers from the beginning of the year. That might be, I'm hoping higher even now, but I'll share what I had from the very beginning of the year, which was that there were just under 800, so 769 air purifiers out in the community as of as of towards kind of the end of last year. I'm not sure if anyone on our outreach team has anything more up to date than that, but as of kind of mid-December, actually, it was 769 devices, but I imagine probably a little bit higher than now after these couple of weeks. And we can plan to share in our standing updates email our very latest numbers from this month too.
Great. Thank you. And that's actually like a perfect transition to the standing updates. I'm looking at CARB. Oh, so Michelle from CARB put some updates in the chat for you and also some PDFs for you all to look at and access for more information if you'd like it there.
Yeah, and I can send that to the district too, so they can include it in their standing update email, but just wanted to go ahead and share that with you.
Great,
so the first thing here is the dialogue sessions, and then I'm also going to paste some information about the community air grants and people that were awarded grants that are working in the San Joaquin Valley. So thought I'd let y'all know.
Thank you. So transitioning to standing updates, I believe we have a few standing updates from CARB and the Air District, and then we can open it up to other agencies. So first we could start off if there's anybody from the California Air Resource Board here that has a standing update to provide.
Sorry, there are two Michelles. I think I may be overlapped. That was me from CARB.
Oh no, that's great. You're like proactive. I love it. I'm writing it down so people can see it and read it in addition to hearing it.
Yes. Yeah, I will. I'm going to be sending that second one right now.
Great.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions or anything too, just let me know.
And Michelle, this is Stephanie. Regarding the community engagement model sessions, my understanding is there are also in-person sessions happening throughout the Valley, correct?
Well, sort of. There are not throughout the valley any longer because of the budget budget cut that came down, basically is now not allowing us to have in-person meetings. And so we have transitioned to having more Zoom meetings, and we are trying to reach out specifically to the communities that we would have come in person, including some from San Joaquin Valley. We're able to do one in person at the Riverside location, which is probably not super convenient for most of you, but if you happen to be down there, we will be offering one there too.
Thanks, Michelle, for that update.
Great. Thank you. And I think, Stephanie, you had a Air District update, and I just see that there's a bunch of information that all the various Michelles have been putting into the chat that that the Air District could include in their post-meeting updates too as well.
Yeah, thanks, Diana. We'll plan to share this out, but maybe, and just to add to Michelle's second point, these community air grants are grants that CARB awards. And as you might see here, there's a whole handful of organizations, some of which that participate on our AB 617 steering committees that were awarded these CAG or Community Air Grant Awards. So congratulations to all the folks that were awarded. I'll just share a quick update at the district. We're really excited to share that we are actually planning for our March CSC meeting to be an in-person meeting. It's been a minute since we've had one. Our last in-person meeting was last May, and it felt like it passed so quickly, but again, it's been several months now, so we just want to, almost a year actually, and so we want to continue to meet with you all in person. We love the opportunity to get to chat with you face-to-face, to have dinner with you, and just connect more in person. And so we are planning on having, again, that in-person meeting in March. Our team is starting to plan all of the logistics. Maybe a quick ask from you all is if anyone has any recommendations of what they want to eat at dinner, a local restaurant that we can support, please feel free to email or call Rocio. And we're coordinating all those logistics, and we'll plan to share out more information about this in-person meeting at upcoming meetings, and work with you all to plan for them in our agenda setting meetings.
Very important action item about food that we would like for the March in-person meeting. So I encourage you all to get back to Rocio with your suggestions for local restaurants that we could support for that. Are there any other agencies with us today that would like to share an update? Need to see if anybody's unmuting. There's been a lot, so I think we've gotten a lot of updates. So I think everybody has given their updates. So I think that's it for the standing updates. Any questions from anyone about any of the standing updates that we just heard? Great, then I'm going to transition us to the wrap-up part of the meeting. When Rocio just shared her email in the chat, if anybody has suggestions for the important action item of restaurants to help with the March in-person meeting. So I'm going to share my screen for the wrap-up part of the meeting. Y'all see my screen? Okay. So thank you. This has been, as always, a really engaging meeting, and we really appreciate all of you being so involved and so caring about your community and your community's air quality. So as we get to the end of our meeting, I'd like to share some next steps that are summarized in this slide. So the first one is that our next agenda setting meeting will be next Tuesday. I was gonna say March. We've been talking about the March meeting. Tuesday, January 16th at 4 p.m. on Zoom. And note that we normally have our agenda setting meetings on the Monday after the CSC meeting, but because next Monday is a holiday, we're going to have the agenda setting meeting on Tuesday instead. So Tuesday, January 16th at 4 p.m. via Zoom is the agenda setting meeting. And those, as Stephanie mentioned earlier in the meeting, are really great times for you all to provide feedback on what you want to hear and what you would like to talk about in the next meeting. And so encourage you all to attend if you cannot attend, and have suggestions for the next meeting or things that you'd like to talk about or things that you would like to share or anything like that. Please feel free to reach out to us, and all of our contact information is on the bottom of the slide, the Air District, as well as the Harder and Company facilitators. The other important date for you all to note is our next CSC meeting will be on a month from now on Monday, February 12th at our usual 5 p.m. time. And so that's, in a month from now, we'll see you on Zoom, and then the March one will be in person. Any questions about our next couple of meetings? I'm going to stop sharing, and Vanessa is going to share the action item. So as you know, as we're going through the meeting, a lot of times somebody says, oh yeah, I'll follow up on that, or oh yeah, we'll get back to you on that, or we'll get more information about that. And while that's happening, we're writing down the action items, and so that we don't forget what all those things that we said we'd do. And then that's what Rocio reviews at the beginning of the meeting to make sure that we're actually getting all of those. And so Vanessa's going to share her screen to talk through, talk about the ones that we wrote down for today. And we do take these in real time, so we might not get them exactly right. So that's one of the reasons why we want to share them with you all now, to make sure that we captured what you really meant. So take it away, Vanessa.
Thank you, Diana. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so you all can see the action items. Can everyone see my screen? Is it legible?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So we have several items for today, and as Diana said, we work hard to ensure that we are getting everything down, all of your requests and questions down quickly. And so we apologize in advance in case we might have misinterpreted something or we might have missed an action item. So for the first one, we have the Air District will check on how the city advertises location of the EV chargers. Second action item, Air District will check on how the public can access EV charger sites / charger site accessibility. So some of the topics related to EV charger sites that came up were, is there a fence around? Are they open 24 hours, etc.? So the Air District will be checking on those details. Next, the third action item is the Air District will share printed copies of the Dial-A-Ride program with CSC members. Fourth item, Air District will share information from Rocio about the City Council meeting related to public transit needs. Fifth, Rocio Mosqueda will confirm if there will be interpretation services at the Public Transit Needs City Council meeting. And last, the Air District will put together a one-page summary for folks who want to participate in the program, and I believe that's the Vegetative Barriers Program, explaining what it is and what they need to do. Stephanie, I saw that you unmuted.
Yeah, maybe I'll just put, or actually maybe if I could just suggest for the first action item, so it's a little more broad. I think the request is generally about maybe the Air District sharing how the public can learn about where chargers, how to access public chargers. That way we can kind of just share more generally. I know Jamie shared a really great update about just generally how folks might find chargers in the area. So I think that maybe is a little more accurate, just about how Air District will share information
for the first one, right?
Yes, exactly.
Share information on how to access EV chargers.
Yeah, EV chargers. That's great.
Okay, perfect. So that one is done. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Were you going to talk about the one in the chat, Vanessa? Did I cut you off? Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I see that Linda mentioned adding the vegetative barriers and Caltrans working with the city on sidewalks they're putting in. Okay. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that, Linda, so I make sure that I capture what you're trying to say?
It was what I had brought up earlier, where we've got the vegetative barrier money, and it would be to help with the reduction of all the car emissions. The city is putting in the sidewalks north of Apple Market to help with PM 2.5. And so since they're laying down sidewalk, it might be a good opportunity for us to work on veg barriers or some kind of protection for all the car emissions.
I'm gonna see if I can repeat that as an action item, and Linda, tell me if I'm getting it right. So I think the action item would be for the air district to connect with the city on seeing if, as part of this sidewalk grant, vegetative barriers could be added between the street and the sidewalk.
Yes.
Maybe.
And there's a bike lane going in there too.
Okay.
And maybe I'll just add, I see Linda also mentioned Caltrans, maybe generally just the air district will connect with the city and Caltrans on opportunities with the vegetative barriers program.
Thank you. I love this real-time action items.
Awesome. Talk about collaboration. Thank you so much, Linda. Did that capture everything? I see a thumbs up from Linda. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Does anyone have any other items that they'd like to share that we may have missed, or maybe we misinterpreted one of the items and you'd like me to change the wording on that?
Great.
Yeah, not seeing anything else. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and pass it back to you, Diana.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to, this is like screen sharing tag here. I'm going to share my screen for the final item, which is public comment. And so again, thank you so much for all of your engagement. This was, I think, one of the meetings I've been involved with the most discussion. So really appreciate you all having the energy at the end of the evening to talk about all of these important issues and share your questions. At this time, we'd like to open up the floor to anyone who'd like to make any final comments. And so if you'd like to make a final comment, you could raise your hand, you could unmute, you could put it in the chat. And I'd love to hear from anyone who has any comments. Go for it. Bianca, I see you have your hand raised.
I saw that in Arvin and Lamont, they are going to have the pesticide subcommittee. We haven't had one in Shafter in a while, and I think it would be nice to get updates from the pesticide here in Shafter. I know, I'm not sure if DPR is in yes, I do see DPR, but I think if we have updates from DPR with the monitoring, especially for like the T-loan reduction and all the pesticides, just get a brief update would be nice, or to have a subcommittee meeting, because I know a notification is one of the parts of the pieces that we've been working on for Shafter. So I think it would be crucial to at least incorporate residents from here in that conversation.
And I see somebody from DPR has their hand raised. I imagine that it's in response to this, so go for it.
Yeah, so regarding the subcommittee, we are working on that. However, to update the community, as of January 1st, 2024, the 1,3-D, so 1D dichloropropane, or 1,3-D, a non-occupational bystander regulation is now in effect. These regulations are meant to migrate both acute and cancer risk. Basically, I'm going to drop in the chat a link, and you can learn more information about that.
Thank you. And I see, Lily, you also have your hand raised. Is it? Yeah, go for it.
Yes, this is related to the pesticide subcommittee. question that Bianca, you just asked. I am part of the work group that is the pesticide subcommittee for Arvin Lamont. And so just to share some of the bigger picture information that I understand. So Arvin Lamont, the San Joaquin Air District got the CERT measure to address pesticides, I believe, from the South Coast Air District and community of Eastern Coachella. So this is kind of happening in a sequence order. And so to the extent that the Eastern Coachella Valley CERP measure to address pesticides kind of roots back to around 2021. We are working kind of like in a queue to get different things addressed. And so to Jimmy's point about 1,3-D, the other community had fumigant monitoring for 1,3-D, chloropicrin, and metam sodium, which is actually measured as MITC. And so I believe what little I understand of Arvin Lamont's pesticide measure that's being developed, it is likely to do the same fumigants. And I just wanted to share that that's the context that I could add that I understand.
And Stephanie, you raised your hand. I believe you probably also have some more context to help with this.
Yeah, thanks, Diana, and thanks, Jimmy and Lily, for jumping in there for updates. I do think, Bianca, to your point, I think that's a great idea to have DPR come and give updates at the next meeting so we can coordinate with DPR to have them added back to our standing updates list. And I know that, like Jimmy mentioned, there's a couple of regulations that are kind of in place or else like on the way to being finalized that we can, I'm sure that DPR can give updates on at the next meeting.
Great, thank you. Vanessa, do you see any comments in the YouTube live?
I don't see any comments, Diana.
Any other comments or questions that anybody has? I know we're at 7. And as a plug for the YouTube live, any of you or anybody else could watch any of the past meetings and recordings. If we talked about something that you were really interested in or didn't totally catch, you could always go back to the YouTube live channel that's listed on this slide, youtube.com/healthyairliving, and see any of the past meetings. You can see how you look in your little Zoom square, or hear how funny you sound on a recording, which is, always entertaining. So with that, I think I'm gonna pass it to Stephanie to wrap us up.
Thanks so much, Diana. I just wanted to thank you all for joining and for providing your feedback and just your constant passion and just commitment to improving air quality in the Shafter community. I am super excited kind of for our upcoming meetings. During our agenda setting, we'll discuss some topics that the district would like to bring at upcoming meetings, but would definitely love to hear all of y'all's input. Again, the agenda setting is next Tuesday. And then again, we are looking forward to, of course, our March in-person meeting as well and seeing you all in person, face-to-face for a really engaging meeting. So with that, I'll say thank you all and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Till next
Buenas
time. Have a good
noches.
night.
Good night. Buenas noches.